Okay, this is something I put together when I was a graduate student as a kind of a mnemonic device to remember the various Japanese literary critics and literary theorists of the Meiji, Taisho, and Showa periods and their main theses or claims. And I put it together when I was reading two anthologies of modern Japanese literary criticism, and I will provide the links to those two books in the description below. Okay, so I'm just going to read, or perform rather, this history of modern Japanese literary criticism, a play in 2 acts. Okay, and I will start with a disclaimer. Okay, so don't take this too seriously. It was put together just as a graduate student, so remember all of these claims and so forth. Okay, so the disclaimer. The following is for reference only. Its sole purpose is to give readers an overview of the history of modern Japanese literary criticism. I have avoided using all features common to the dramatic form, including plot, character development, humor, wordplay, Verfremdungseffekt, Sai, I forget how to pronounce that German word, meaning, what is the English translation? Alienation, I think it is Brecht's term for alienation, involution, and any explicit or implicit references to myself, R. Sheldon Morrison, and the narrow world I inhabit. Okay, then I have a list of the dramatis personae in order of appearance, and by the way, the link to the play is provided in the description as well. Okay, the dramatic personae, Tsubo Shoyo, Futabate Shime, Moriogai, Yamaji Aizan, Kitamura Tokoka, Masaoka Shiki, Takayama Chogyo, Tayama Katai, Hasegawa Tenke, Soma Gyofu, Shimamura Hogetsu, Abe Jiro, Natsume Soseki, Zumi Setsuo, Ishikawa Takuboka, Uchida Roan, and Osugi Sakae. Okay, those are the main characters. And now Act 1. Okay, so we start with the Meiji and the Taisho periods. Act 1, Scene 1. Okay, so I try to capture their main theses, main claims in this very short dialogue that they have between each other. Act 1, Scene 1, 1885 to 1887. Okay, Tsubot Shoyo. Away with the past and its frivolous traditions, its didacticism, kanzen chowaku, and improbable romances. Like the Jacobins of the French Revolution, we shall turn the clock back to the year 0 and begin anew. Let the modern novel supplant our substandard genres of the Edo period. Young writers, take as your model the novels of Victorian England, which through natural description and psychological realism faithfully portray modern life and human emotions. To which Futabate Shime responds, I hear you, Shoyo. However, your novel, Portraits of Contemporary Students, is clearly flawed. Take a look at my new novel, Ukigumo, 1887. Let it be remembered as Japan's first authentic novel, Honkaku Shousetsu, and the first to unify the spoken and written languages, Genbun Ichi. Okay. So now moving to 1891, Moriogai enters the scene and says, You were right, Shoyo, when you elsewhere warned of the dangers of a merely subjective kind of criticism. But you were wrong to insist that criticism was not dependent upon the idea, the idee. Empirical observation alone is not sufficient. You see, the Germans have made me an idealist, Kyokuchi Shugi, while the English tradition has made you a realist, Shizen Shugi. But realism does not go far enough. We must grasp the idea, that lies behind the thing. Contrary to your claims, Shakespeare's works abound with ideas. To which Shoyo responds, You're missing my point. I'm not claiming that there are no ideas in Shakespeare. I admit they are everywhere. Shakespeare presents us with manifold ideas in dramatized form, yet he himself adheres to none. To which Ogai responds, One cannot avoid the idea. It is the foundation of all art. To which Shoyo says, Oi, Ve, I can see this is going nowhere. Okay. Narrator enters, and indeed Shoyo was right. The debate, which would become known as the Botsuriso Donso, or the submerged ideals debate, was in fact going nowhere. largely due to the confusion over the new terms myoso, riso, shiso, ideal, and thought, respectively. Like most subsequent literary debates, this one would peter out before reaching a consensus. Now it is 1893, and Yamaji Aizan and Kitamura Tokoku are arguing over the social role of literature. Okay, Yamaji Aizan says, "Novels must enlighten the public. If they don't, they are useless. The writer is responsible first and foremost to his society." And Kitamura Tokoku responds, "Cut the crap. The sole duty of the writer is to faithfully record his internal life, naibu no seimei. The external world, historical events, social realities, the public, other people, exists only for his amusement." To which Yamaji Aizan responds, "Oh, my naive Tokoku. There are two worlds, you see, the real world, jitsekai, and the conceptual world, sosekai. The task of the writer is to mediate between the two. Today there are two kinds of writer. Those like the Ken Yusha writers who turn a blind eye to reality, preferring instead fantasy and abstruse wordplay, and those like Hirotsu Ryuro, Kawakami Bizan, and Izumi Kyoka, who boldly confront the bitter realities of life in their social novels, shakai shosetsu, in their tragic novels, hisan shosetsu, in their profound novels, shinkoku shosetsu, and in their conceptual novels, kannen shosetsu. What with all that's going on now, rapid industrialization, the new constitution, the recent Sino-Japanese war, how can we retreat into solipsism?" The debate ends inconclusively, says the narrator, and the individual society problematic is to remain a major fault line in literature for years to come. It is now 1898 and Masaoka Shiki is calling for a revolution in poetry. Masaoka Shiki enters the stage and says, "Kino Tsurayuki sucks. His Kokinshu is a worthless document. The essence of our poetic tradition is to be found instead in the unadorned language of the Manyoshu and the manful haiku of Buson, Yosa Buson. Away with the girlish poetry of Matsuo Basho. We must reform Hokku. We shall henceforth call Hokku haiku. Through selective realism we shall reform everything, sketching, shase, and a commitment to sincerity or makoto." Narrator. 3 years pass. It is now late 1901, and the fervent nationalism that swept the country during the Sino-Japanese War has produced a wave of romantic individualism. At the head of this movement to forge a new modern self, Kindai Jiga, is Takayama Chogyu, who, having abandoned the jingoistic Japonism, Nihon Shugi, in favor of a Nietzsche-inspired egoism, now expounds a philosophy based on instinct, or honno. Okay? Takayama Chogyu enters. "The most we can hope for in this life, friends, is the satisfaction of desire. Ethics should be replaced with aesthetics, animalism, sex, love. Away with the tradition, with saikaku, with gendoku haikai. Only Chikamatsu should be spared, for he espoused a kind of proto-individualism, and his young sensuous heroines were quite vivid. Where are the great critics of our age? Where is our Tolstoy, our Whitman, our Ibsen, our Zola? We haven't any, I'm afraid. Here are only obsequious flatterers." To which Tayama Katai responds, Japan's first eye novelist, Tayama Katai, author of Futon, responds, "I dig your egoism, Chogyu, but I still detect a romantic sensibility in your style. In prose writing, let us have plain delineation, heimen byosha, and scientific naturalism, which means in practice that I get to describe in detail my obsession with nubile girls, shoujobyo." Alright. Referring, of course, to his short story, Shoujobyo, which I have a study guide to that work elsewhere in another video. Okay, now it is 1906, 1907, and enter Hasegawa Tenke. "Oh, ours is a spiritless age of despair and disillusionment, Genmetsu Jidai. materialism and science have made empty symbols of things. The temple, that shrine, a distant landscape. Tayamakata is right. The only artistic method appropriate in such a time is an unadorned art which portrays the truth. To which Soma Gyofu responds, "You make it sound as if objectivity were possible, truth knowable, as if writing itself were a passive activity. But the writer, friend, is no transparent glass through which the real is transmitted. Rather, he must actively incorporate his own subjectivity into his work. Just look at what's happening in Europe, where science and its pretensions of objectivity are destroying an entire civilization." Narrator. 2 years have passed. It is now late 1909. Shimamura Hogetsu. It is the duty of art to bear witness to the world. Sekai o kansho. Let us have more conceptual novels. Gainen shousetsu. Kannen shousetsu. Conceptual novels that address social ills. Let us embrace and cultivate our subjectivity. Long live naturalism, Shizen Shugi. To which Abe Jiro responds, "Don't get your hopes up, Hogetsu. Nagai Kafu was recently attacked for his Epicureanism, Kyorakushugi. Yet a closer look reveals that Epicureanism and naturalism, as practiced here in Japan, are really two sides of the same coin. Japanese naturalism, in fact, has little to do with French naturalism. It's closer to Romanticism. Mark my words, the end of the naturalists' reign is nigh." To which Uozumi Setsuo responds, "Abe is right. Japanese naturalism was bound to fall into decline due to its irreconcilably diverse origins, namely scientific determinism and egocentrism." Enter Natsume Soseki. Isms, isms, isms. No ism can contain the whole, or even if it could, we wouldn't know, having only half-digested Western thought. Our so-called civilization, friends, will forever remain a botched one so long as it's externally motivated, gaihatsuteki. To which Ishikawa Takuboku responds, the poet Ishikawa Takuboku responds, "The high treason incident this year has Taigyaku Jiken, by the way, the famous high treason incident, Taigyaku Jiken, this year has exposed the barbarity that lies just beneath the surface of our suffocating age, Jidai Heisoku. Ours now is the formidable task of resolving the contradictions inherent in the socio-economic system. Naturalism sure isn't up to it, so let us forge a new kind of literature, inspired by the anarcho-socialism of Russia." It is now 1913. Enter Uchida Roan. Has anyone noticed how poppy literature is getting? It's well nigh become a national business. I say it's time to get serious and start writing political novels and shed this old notion of tsubochoyo, which I once supported, namely the notion that the novel should be concerned primarily with ninjo, or human emotions. Osugi Sakai, the great Japanese anarchist, executed in the 1923, I think. Osugi Sakai. "The high treason incident has ushered us into a new wintry age, Fuyu no Jidai. Resistance requires the expansion of life, sei no kakuju, and a subscription to Kindai Shiso, Modern Thought, my new anarchist magazine." End Act 1, Scene 1. Act 1, Scene 2, the Taisho Period. Okay, the Taisho Period, of course, begins in 1912, ends in 1925. Okay, again the disclaimer, the following is for reference only. Its sole purpose is to give readers an overview of the history of modern Japanese literary criticism. I have avoided using all features common to the dramatic form, including plot, character development, wordplay, humor, alienation, involution, and any explicit or implicit references to myself, R. Shaljin Morrison, and the narrow world I inhabit. Okay, the dramatic personae in this